Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode of this delightful lunacy. I am Brent Hazelton, Artistic Director of Milwaukee Chamber Theater. With me, as always, is stalwart co-host, Ms. Kimberly Colburn, formerly Literary Manager at Actors Theater of Louisville and Literary Director at South Coast Rep, and now incredibly Canadian. With us today to save us, the very capable Leah Hamos and Skyler Gray. They are both agents at the Gersh Agency in New York on the theater side, and we thought it would be really cool to talk a little bit about just what an agent does on the theater side. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about their role dramaturgically and how they help playwrights to succeed. But before we do that, an opening question for you all. If I were to say to you that Kimberly Colburn was one of the three most significant people in the American new play industry, agree or disagree?
Agree.
She's wearing leggings. I mean, maybe.
When she wears those pants, disagree. Agree
Yes,
most of the time.
Yeah.
So until we saw the pants, agree. Great, that's fair. And what are we drinking? Leah, what do you got going?
Got a margarita. I ordered it from our local restaurant, and it came in a big Tupperware. And it's
Delightful. Skyler Gray?
Red wine.
classy.
I don't know what the bottle is.
Just red.
I just grabbed one off the shelf.
Sensational.
I meant to tell you earlier that my sister-in-law's family is partially from Wisconsin, so Spotted Cow is at all of our barbecues. He pulled out the can, exactly what it was.
My new favorite literary agent. All right, literary agents, what do you do?
What do? We advocate for writers, directors, designers. We should also say we work with, even though the literary moniker is on there, we work with people who are behind the scenes. I mean, and that's the easiest way to kind of work through it, with the exception of people who do solo shows and are often writer performers, to which you're doing both sides. But we advocate for them. We get their projects set up in different places. Our job is to have relationships with people all over the country. So that's why we know you guys, quite frankly. That's how this came to be.
When you say advocate, do you mean like you tweet about people?
Some people do, and I don't want to, shove that aside. Some people are very public posters about their clients. I do not. To my knowledge, Skyler does not.
He does not actually have a Twitter account?
Correct.
Correct. So yeah, the advocacy can take all different sizes and shapes, quite frankly. It can be about the work. It can be about getting you an aisle seat preference on a flight. Like it really runs the gamut.
Oh, interesting.
What your interests are, because we really, we work both sides of the table. We work artistic, and then we also do the business side. So there is the deal making, there is all of the phones, there are the very fast-paced parts of the job, but then there are the very creative artistic parts, which is something that we really like, and that's why, frankly, the two of us are in it. I think I would say, not to speak on your behalf, Skyler.
No, that's totally true.
So pedantic question, but do you keep like a spreadsheet of people's like, do you like a window or an aisle? Do you know what I mean?
Now that's going to become the thread of conversation through all of this.
Was like booking travel.
Well, because that's a huge part of what any agent does, is negotiating some of the travel components or housing needs, or, this is theater. We don't work in film. We are not selling out, 10,000 seat concert venues. So the scale is very different. But just out of curiosity, like, do playwrights request these things? Do they, like, what is the scale of an ask?
I think part of it is so much, the thing that is nice about theater that isn't so much about having like a tech writer, like the big musician people like you're talking about are touring do, is that theaters for the most part are looking out for the best way to engage with whatever artist is coming to travel to them, to work with them. So there is a very personal nature to the job of saying, how can we facilitate within the, set of resources that we have to be able to make the ability to create art doable for you. And so kind of the best, more without getting into the specifics of like, yes, maybe we know the information or have a list somewhere of who likes an aisle seat. It's easier to talk about in the strokes of like, this person has a family now, and therefore whenever they travel to go do a new play, they're going to have to travel with their kid, or they would prefer a travel stipend because they need the flexibility to bring that person here back and forth. And so it is about facilitating, how best you can create art, and not a means for you to lose money, and so that you're not distracted too, because people are juggling multiple jobs and projects and family members all the time.
How do you even get a writer to that point? You get a theater to commit to producing someone's work, or even commit to wanting to meet with them. What's that relationship
Advocacy.
like?
I mean, I think a big part of it, you know, having been on the other side for so long, you have to make the ask. And a big part of it is understanding what theaters do and what work, what writers, what plays, that could be a good match for both sides. And I think, you know, when I was on the other side, that was really like the agents who really understood what Victory Gardens did, and like what a Victory Gardens play was, and what writers we would be excited about, and asking if I'd go get coffee with them. I mean, that was always the most exciting part, is you get to meet these people who you may not know, or you may not be familiar with, and you've built a relationship with the agents, and the agents have built a relationship with the theater, that you start to work together to find matches. So it's not like an agent is like a used car salesman hawking, you know, any car to anyone who will buy. The art of agenting is really about creating those partnerships and understanding, you know, stylistically, thematically, structurally, like what theaters gravitate towards. And on both sides, with the literary staff or the artistic directors, like how do you stretch what that is, but also how do you make a match with the artist and the theater?
That's advocacy for matchmaking of the theater and the playwrights, but how do you decide which playwrights to represent?
I think some of it is not dissimilar to that matchmaking process. There is, I mean, Skyler's so right that there isn't the kind of car salesman approach to this works for everybody, but there is a sales part of the job that is about developing the pitch, both about the play and both about the playwright, I guess I should say, and the play, because also not every play that playwright is putting out is the same. And the same goes for our designers and our directors. Is for us, so much of that is not representing all the same kind of person too, is that there is different kinds of stylistic writers in your roster, and mostly you're finding what you jive with. You're out, but it's not like I can only ever represent 30 playwrights who all do the same thing. Otherwise I wouldn't be doing my job well. I need to represent the people whose plays I want to see, but that would fit this set of theaters, and then another playwright that would fit this set of theaters. And some of that is about size of theaters, some of it is about theme and content and interest in terms of how they're generating audience. So when I choose to represent someone, I'm often looking for something that I don't already have, which is like a non-specific way of telling you anything that I'm looking for, and something that I think will do well for the conversations that we're having in the field, which is very often.
So what do you do when you represent a playwright and they give you a play and you're like, this sucks?
I mean, I'll answer that. To go back to your previous question, I mean, I think part of it is I will never represent someone based off of one thing. I will always read a body of work. I will read whatever the 5 pages of the next thing is. So I'm deciding to represent a voice, a person. So when they write something that, you know, is a first draft and they need help figuring out what it is, they don't know what it is, they're just putting words on a page because it feels like that's what's coming to them. I mean, I think that's when the dramaturgy kicks in. I mean, it's so much of what I've been doing during the pandemic is talking with writers about plays, talking through the artistic part and the notes and questions they have and thoughts I have. And it's like the art really thrives in those moments. But I think you're representing a voice, you're representing an artist, you're not simply representing a play. And you'll get various different, you know, styles, and they'll try things. And I think part of that is being with them for all of that. And finding, you know, partners that can help. Like Leah said, it's like not everything is the same, but like who can help them get the play to the next level, even if it's not a play you're deeply in love with. If it strikes a chord for them, it'll strike a chord for someone else.
But how do you help writers negotiate that sense of the pile, right? Because it's all about, for me, from the literary side of producing theater, right? It's always just about getting that script to the top of the pile, but you know, having to do it in a way that's not alienating. But how do you help manage writers through that? Because you write a thing, you put it out into the world, and then nothing, and you're trying to create a supportive structure around that. So just what is that process like, from the time a writer gives you something, you've built those relationships, you match it with a producer, and then you just wait?
These silences are my favorite. I mean, I think part of it is, how do you manage those expectations? You know, I don't think I have the right answer, because I think in general, we as an industry haven't totally figured out any other form of managing that quite yet. And I don't mean that in a demonizing way. There has to be a better way for all of us at some point, and I don't know the other way around it, quite frankly. And you can give the best pitch until you're blue in the face, and the truth is, you know, there's still many more plays, either from priorities of the institution or the other people that you're working with, or the mandates of what you're trying to read that time to fill in a slot in the season. Like, you know, Skyler references a lot of being on the other side of the table. I was, but much longer ago. And in the same way, with we know that, and I can't even demonize someone for having a pile, because we experience that, and part of the nature of the day is just making your way through it. So, you know, we lean on other tools sometimes, whether it's someone's traveling to insert X place to visit family and just needs to build out a couple of days to deepen that relationship a little bit. Sometimes that, I don't want to be like, that gets the play read faster. Sometimes it's just a way of people matching the person to the work that's helpful. But to be honest, I don't think I have the answer for that, because I don't know another way to not have a pile yet.
How do you get to be an agent? There's no like agent school, right? Nobody has a degree in agenting. How do you find your way into this?
I think a lot of people seek it out because it's at least as you may become an assistant, because it's a crossroads for a lot of people and projects and things. So a lot of people, particularly in the film and TV side, seek it out in talent. Yeah, just as like a crossroads, is a place to get a lot of information. So you start as an assistant, and then you work your way up. I mean, although we work at Gersh, although when I was at Abrams, we didn't have a mailroom culture where you would be a floater, where you'd work in all of the departments. Gersh does have that, and most of the larger agencies do as well, as a way to just like learn a lot about everything and the inner workings of being an agent. And then you'll end up in a department specifically on an agent's desk, and you work your way up to being a coordinator, to starting to take on some clients and be a junior agent, and then ultimately to being an agent. But we're one of those industries where there's really only like 3 titles for your whole life. So by the time you become an agent, like, this is where we are now for the rest of our lives.
And that, for me, is sort of the most valuable function in terms of just the career management or the emotional management or the life management, right? Because you are the people who say, if you make this decision, your career is not over, right? I have your back. We will put this out into the world again. And that is, boy, there's just so much emotional isolation in being a freelance theater artist, and just having somebody who has your back to that degree is huge. I mean, in all the advocacy stuff aside, somebody who's just going to say, if you say no to this, if you pass up this one opportunity, I promise you there's going to be another one. I mean, that's massive to hear that, particularly early in your career.
But I would
And yeah.
That is advocacy.
Yeah.
That is advocacy to your client,
Sure.
to yourself, to the way that you want to operate. And knowing that advocating for your client is also knowing how to have a relationship with that theater or that producer that you're talking to say, you know, we so appreciate the support. We appreciate that you love this play. We're looking for something else. And
Yeah.
you know, I hope we'll find another chance to work together. is a very, very hard thing. And very often it's a growing opportunity, and it'll come back to you in another negotiation for a different artist down the line. But that's where every artist is different. And everybody has a different set of givens, quite frankly, that you're entering the room with.
Well, and that's why I decided to like go back to agenting, because, you know, when you're working at a theater, you're only allowing 2 new plays in per season, 3, maybe 4, maybe none. I mean, it's different by institution, but like you're with a playwright for a certain amount of time. You're trying to do everything you can for that play. And what like I really just missed was being on the entire journey with a writer, with an artist, where you're in the highs and lows. You're strategizing about what 10 years from now looks like, as opposed to what opening night looks like.
Well, yeah, that's the reason why I've cried at openings when you get to that place with clients of being like, oh, this is a real coup, real success for us as a team to have gotten to whatever that place is. So,
well, because you remember 5 years ago when something fell apart, and it took 5 years of believing in each other and believing in the play to get it to a point. But also when you work at a theater, and all 3 of you know this, it's like you're advocating for a play that doesn't get in 1 season. You're still advocating for that play the 2nd season it doesn't get in. And then it gets in the
7th season.
But when it gets in the 7th season, and it's like you have worked your ass off because you believe in this, not because you think it'll just sell tickets, or because you needed a play. Like, you believed in it, and multiple people did on all sides. So you get that play up, and it's far more than, here we are. It's like, no, we all went through something. And a lot of those people are never recognized for that commitment and that advocacy, especially literary managers and dramaturgs at theaters. I mean, I think those are the people who, are in it for the long haul, are in it for, the war, not just the battle. And those are the people that you get to opening and you're like, oh my God, it all looks so great. But they know what it looked like 8 years ago. And that's just like so fulfilling, but also you don't see that at opening. But there's been an entire history.
Leah Hamos, Skyler Gray, thank you so much for hanging out with us. Kimberly Colburn, faithful co-host.
It's so fun.
I salute you and your consistently amazing hair. Even if you are not one of the 3 most important people in regional theater, you do have one of the 3 most important heads of hair in regional theater.
It's like which parts I'm cutting out of the next episode.